Welcome to my channel. Evelina here, Feel, Grow, Live. Today we're going to answer the question, why am I stuck in fight or flight? If you're asking this question, that's very good, and it tells me that you're curious about your experience and you're trying to identify and find words for how you feel. Right? So that's a very good question, because it's a question asked from a perspective of the nervous system, and that's what we're really after, right? Fight or flight is a name for anxiety, really. Fight or flight are two very different responses in the nervous system. So you cannot be both. Just remember that. So if you think about the literal meaning of the word fight and flight, they mean completely opposite. When you're fighting, think about the physical fight. Obviously, you're trying to resolve the threat, the danger, by engaging with your environment and by dissolving the threat or danger by fighting with your reality, with what's in front of you. When you think about flight, you're literally running away, which is very often a very correct response. So they're two very different ways, and they're referred to behaviors, right? So people in fight mode, they're trying to deal with the stressor, whatever that is, by doing. So if we remove the extreme, which is literal fighting, which is not difficult to imagine, but if we remove the extreme, think about the way in which you engage with life, right? Because it's a very specific archetype. It's a specific kind of person. So people who are in fight mode, they are doers. They literally constantly doing something and engaging, talking, doing things for the sake of doing things sometimes. So we are talking about behaviors here. Physiologically speaking, it's the same thing. Your body, your nervous system, is in a stress response, in sympathetic response, this is what it's called, where your body has detected a danger, a threat, and it doesn't have to be physical. Sometimes it's just a volume. Your body is overwhelmed, you've had enough, you've been exposing yourself, or you've been exposed to the amount of stress that has made you reach your capacity. So then there's a lot of things going on physiologically, which I'm going to mention briefly, right? So your neuroception has detected that, okay, well, I've had enough. Your nervous system is like, right, this might mean that I'm in danger from the volume excess, just the sort of the amount, it's overload basically in today's world. So it doesn't have to be negative, but think about the volume, right? So what happens then, your body gears up to resolve the stress, and you're doing that by engaging, fight mode, or disengaging with your environment. So leaving the scene, fleeing the scene. But physiologically, what happens when your body decides that it has had enough? Biochemically, everything changes. Adrenaline, cortisol gets released into your bloodstream, which is a stress hormone. There's a lot of energy being built up in your system in order for you to fight or flight. For both, you need energy. And your heartbeat changes, your digestion changes, your breathing changes. It's all about pumping the energy into your legs and arms so you can run or fight. What happens in your brain also is that because the energy that goes into your brain becomes irrelevant, because you don't need time to think. You can't overthink a situation. You need to act. It's usually milliseconds. So the frontal lobe, which is prefrontal cortex, in other words, which is responsible for your executive function, i.e. higher thinking processes, planning, problem solving, parts of speech, working memory, so what do I do, right? That goes offline because that's irrelevant. Because the main part of the brain that is responsible for stress response is amygdala, which is like an almond-shaped part of the brain. It's a very primal part of the brain, so we share it with animals. When that gets activated, that evokes a fear response. So again, your prefrontal cortex goes offline and your energy in the body gets reorganized. It just so happens that depending on your temperament, upbringing, nature, you choose one or the other. So fight or flight. Physiologically, the same thing happens. So that's why you can't think when you're anxious. You can't organize your thoughts. You can't really think about what's going to happen next week. You forget about what you were thinking 3 days ago or doing 3 days ago. Your perception gets reorganized around the threat, around the feeling of a threat, that you're in danger, that your body is in danger. So when you get stuck there, just know that you can't outthink your state. And think body. How do I calm my body? Right? So if you're constantly doing and you cannot stop, and usually people who are in fight mode, they do not stop, they collapse. They can't rest. Anything that is calm, they find boring, irritating to the extent of irritating. Then you really need to get your higher self online and know that you can't get to your body through your mind at this point because it's a physiological and you're locked in that state. So think about your body and how to get unstuck. So for people who are in fight mode, there will be different solutions than people who are in flight mode, right? So if you can't stop, you need to make yourself stop or at least slow down bodily wise. So going for a rhythmical walk, a prolonged walk, so at least 15-20 minutes, a bath, so full sensory experience, a shower, right? This is how you get unstuck. You slow everything down. That's why when we're in fight mode, eating very often slows us down because especially carbs, the energy goes into digestion. So it gets redirected. That's why we call it comfort food. But for people who are in fight mode, who are constantly avoiding everything and they have a tendency to isolate, right? And just remember, this is very often about perceived stress. So maybe you've watched too much of something. Maybe you have hung out around with wrong people. So you've had too much of stimuli that stresses your nervous system. Because let's be honest, unless a tiger is chasing you, it's a perception of stress, not the stress itself, right? And if you think about from the perspective of the nervous system, and if you think about fight and flight, this is really the intelligence and the wisdom of your nervous system. If you didn't have these responses, you would literally drive yourself to the ground. So it's really for you to stop and think, right, what am I doing here? And obviously it's everything you watch, everything you expose yourself to, because your eyes really affect your body, what you consume, food-wise, content-wise, what you watch, what you listen, who you listen, and really visual things as well. So everything is now soaked in stress, right? Think about it and get curious about it because it's very specific to you. You've reached the threshold of your capacity. So to get unstuck, you need to get into your body and give your body the experience of the feedback. You need to let your body know that you are safe. If you're into breathing, prolonged breathing for 5 minutes will send a message to your nervous system, to your amygdala, to your brain that you are safe. So control the breathing, because when you're stressed, your breathing gets really shallow, right? So connecting with your body and sending the message to your body through experiencing something, through sensory experience, calms your body, and this is how you get unstuck, right? Very often it's changing the environment. If you have an environment that is chaotic, if you live in an environment that is chaotic, very often people say, oh no, I really like it. I really like my job because I'm moving around, and right? But you need to think grounding, because your body doesn't understand the narrative that you want this job or you want to be liked by those people. Your body has had enough. That's why it has gone into fight or flight. So you need grounding, some sort of experience of grounding. Sometimes lying on the floor helps. Sometimes just squeezing yourself with a blanket, giving yourself an experience of grounding, of anchoring yourself into your body. Exercise, that's not always possible, but walking, shower, some sort of sensory, calming, grounding, anchoring experience. This is how you get unstuck. If you like the material in this video, please drop a comment. Let me know that it was helpful, if it was. If it wasn't, let me know it wasn't. Let me know what was lacking maybe, what questions do you have. I would definitely engage with those. And just to let you know, I do have a course on the nervous system and the mind. I'm an ex-therapist, and I build the course based on many years of experience of working within mental health. And I built this course without the help of any AI, if it's important to you. And it teaches you, it makes you a student of your nervous system, and it teaches you the skills and the understandings of self-awareness, of the awareness of the nervous system that you can do and use in everyday life. So it's not something that you learn outside of your home, it's about your everyday experience, which is the most important experience for your nervous system, where you can get in control over your nervous system and take ownership of how you feel and what goes on in your mind and body. Thank you very much, and see you next time.